So two developments related to the Gaza genocide, and both should worry us in the West. What has just happened further establishes what many have been terming Jewish supremacy. The first is about a major law change to curb free speech to apparently protect the Jewish community in the UK. And the other is related to serious allegations of Israeli terrorists committing torture on Swedish activist Greta Thunberg in their captivity. Now let's look at these developments in greater detail. Britain's first ever Muslim Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, today proudly announced that she was going to change the law relating to the freedom to protest in this country. She made a series of TV appearances to showcase just how loyal she was to the cause of Israel. The central theme of what she told Laura Quinsberg of the BBC and Trevor Phillips of Sky News was that anyone wishing to hold repeated protests on the same topic would henceforth be not allowed to do so. Let's listen to her extraordinary justification.
Is it not a dark step to limit the fundamental right to protest in a country that's founded on liberty and the right to say and think what you want?
Well, firstly, I don't think it's offensive to ask people to show a little humanity towards a community that has suffered such a terrible tragedy. That's the first loss of Jewish life, simply for being Jewish, on British soil in centuries, actually, as it happens. It's a very, very long time since that's happened in our country. And I think just because you have a freedom doesn't mean to say you have to use it at every moment of every day. Those people could have just waited a day or two and given people the chance to grieve and process what has happened.
But beyond this weekend,
I don't think there's anything offensive about that. I think that would have been a British response to what we've
But beyond this weekend, what you are suggesting as Home Secretary is a response to limit particular protests that many people believe are part of their fundamental right to go and object to something they see in another part of the world that has horrified them.
Well, look, what we are doing is enabling the police to put more conditions and restrictions, so people will still be able to protest. But I think it is right that we look again at the balance that is being struck at the moment between that right to protest and also the wider rights of our communities as well. So it's always a balance, and I'm recognising that I think that balance has been not necessarily in the right place. I want to have more consistency of police practice when it comes to the conditions they put on these protests, and I have recognised that there is a gap in the law here. There is an inconsistency of practice, and that is why I want to make it absolutely explicit that cumulative disruption is a relevant factor for the police to take into account.
If you ever had any doubt on whether this was not to appease the Israel's genocidal maniacs, then see what she tweeted later. She wrote, and I quote, "Protest is a fundamental right, but this right must not be used to intimidate or spread fear amongst communities. I will grant police forces new powers to put conditions on repeat protests." End quote. When this woman talks about the imaginary fear amongst communities, she is clearly linking the protest against Israel's genocidal campaign in Gaza to the attack on a synagogue in Manchester recently. This despite the fact that there are absolutely no evidence to suggest that the weekly protests against the Israeli genocide in Gaza were responsible for what happened in Manchester. This is also despite the fact that there are already many questions on the claims relating to the terrorist Jihad al-Shami and how armed police arrived within 6 minutes to kill the terrorist. Many are wondering how one could be named as Jihad al-Shami, which effectively means jihadi from Syria. Who keeps such a name? While Shabana Mahmood's department is yet to provide clarity around these suspicious claims, she has moved with lightning speed to effectively make the future protest against Israel a crime. Isn't it amazing how all three recent Home Secretaries of South Asian origin, namely Priti Patel, Swela Braverman, and now Shabana Mahmood, have competed with each other to prove who is the most loyal servant of Israel? The problem I have with Shabana Mahmood is this. Two people from the Jewish community get killed by a lunatic whose identity and motive are still mysterious, and the country goes berserk. The media covers this story non-stop for 2 days, and the Prime Minister holds an emergency Cobra meeting to discuss the situation. But only a few days ago, a Muslim imam from a mosque was stabbed in the heart of London, barely few kilometers from the 10 Downing Street. Did you see the same level of urgency by the government or the lapdog media in the UK? Shabana Mahmood says this is the first time that Jews have been attacked on UK soil for being Jews. Aren't Muslims being attacked for being Muslims for the first time in this country? Muslims are more than 5% of the UK's population, while Jews are 0.5% of the UK's population. As I speak, another mosque in the UK has been set on fire.
Now, police are treating a suspected arson attack on a mosque in East Sussex as a hate crime. Well, let's cross there now. Our correspondent Molly Malone is there for us. So, Molly, tell us what's happened.
We know that police emergency services were called to reports of a fire here just before 10 o'clock last night. It is behind me, a small mosque, but locals here say it serves a large Muslim community. There is still a fairly heavy police presence around, and actually the leader of the mosque here, a man who runs it, turned up this morning to the police cordon, obviously visibly upset by what he's seen. You'll see behind me there's a burnt out car and a small amount of damage to the front of the mosque and blackened walls. No one was injured, but police say that they're treating it as a hate crime incident and they're investigating it as a suspected arson attack. Clearly, as we know, it comes at a time of increased community tensions and a particular focus on safety and security of places of worship.
Where is the non-stop coverage on the lapdog media? And where is the Cobra meeting by Israeli poodle Keir Starmer? And you say there is no Jewish supremacy? I have used this argument to compare the population only to counter Shabana Mahmood's twisted views. To me, every single life should matter. Whether you are Jew, you are a Muslim, you are a Hindu, you are Christian, you are Buddhist, it doesn't matter. You are a human being and you should be treated equally. Why are these compromised politicians busy giving a preferential treatment to Jews? These corrupt and compromised politicians are making our society sick, just like they themselves are. Now you decide if you feel proud of sharing Shabana Mahmood's Pakistani and Muslim lineage. Another equally disturbing development is coming from the illegal settler colony of Israel, where Israeli terrorists are being accused of torturing Greta Thunberg. Remember how Israeli terrorists had illegally kidnapped more than 130 international activists from 40-odd countries in international waters a few days ago? This was another gross violation of international law by the rogue regime of the illegal settler colony built on the stolen land of Palestinians. I had made a video you can watch here. Now it has emerged that Israeli terrorists ill-treated the kidnapped activists and particularly targeted Greta with their barbaric method of torturing.
Just across the water from here, there is a genocide going on. A mass starvation committed by Israel's murder machine. Keep your eyes on Gaza. We have global media reporting about this mission. Where is global media when it comes to reporting about the hell they're going through in this genocide?
Turkish activist Ersin Selik, who was also on board the global Sumut flotilla, has said that Israeli forces subjected 22-year-old Greta Thunberg to severe torture. Mind you, she's just 22. The Turkish activist also said, and I quote, "They severely tortured Greta before our eyes. They persecuted her. Greta is just a little child. They made her crawl and made her kiss the Israeli flag. They did exactly what the Nazis once did." End quote. Why are we surprised? Committing unspeakable atrocities against children and babies is something Israeli terrorists are experts on. But the global silence, even from the EU, on the reports of a European citizen being tortured by Israeli terrorists is baffling. If this isn't Jewish supremacy, then what is? What would it take for the global fraternity to stop showing their cowardice to a bunch of savages from Israel? That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism. Just to repeat that if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.